Young. Messi.
I was just scrolling through my YouTube analytics the other day and I came across something very interesting. Majority of you people that are watching my videos are between the age of 18 to 25 and a smaller percentage are between the age of 25 to 35. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say that many of you that are watching my videos are in the student phase. That is, you're either studying in college, in school, or you're preparing for some kind of exam. And this got me thinking back to my college days. So I graduated a little over a year ago with a degree in bachelor's in physiotherapy, and I graduated with a CGPA of I think somewhere between 8.4 or 8.6. I do not remember very clearly, but I was just thinking back on my exam days when I used to prepare for exams, and I was thinking how I used to do things so differently from the rest of my batch. For example, I used to never pull an all-nighter, and during my exam days I actually spent less time studying as compared to majority of my batchmates. So now that I'm done with my student phase and my studying phase, I thought, why don't I share these tips with you guys? Now these tips are not going to help you get to the top or stand first in class, because that was never my goal. My goal was always to just pass every single exam, and that's what I was able to do, and thankfully I was able to do that with distinction as well. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into these tips. Now I've divided these tips into two categories. The first category is the study related tips, that is the tips that are directly related to you studying. And the second category is the non-study related tips. Yes, those are equally important, and that's what I figured out during my college life, and I'm so glad I did. So the first tips that I'm going to be talking about are the study related direct tips. So let me set the scene for you. Say it's a month before your exam and you have a lot of portion to complete. This is just some of the books that I had to get through during my college days. But when you see the amount of portion you have, it overwhelms you and you are confused and fearful and you have anxiety thinking about how am I going to get through all of this portion before my exam, and that leads to your anxiety levels just going up and up. And as time goes and the days come closer, the portion is not getting any less. So I was equally overwhelmed in the start when I used to see so much of portion is there for the exam, and I used to sometimes freak out. But then I just found a way to deal with it. So what you do is you write down every single chapter that you have to study. At the side of that, you write down how long you think it will take you to study the particular chapter. Now after you do that, say you have like 1 month before the exams, you take the next 2 weeks and you put each of these chapters within the week based on the number of hours you're going to be studying a day, and based on the number of hours it will take you to finish each of these chapters. And one tip I used to use is I used to not schedule the same subject chapters every single day. So like 2 days I would do one subject, then I would switch it up and do another subject, and that way I kept things interesting and did not keep it boring. Now why I like this way is because you're taking the entire portion and scheduling it over a longer period of time as compared to taking a particular chapter and scheduling it per hour, because inevitably you end up just needing more time for a particular chapter and then your hours become less during the day, and that leads to you getting more anxious. So this way you distribute it throughout the week and you study it however and whenever you want, but making sure you're sticking to your current schedule. So this allows for a lot of flexibility and reduces your stress levels in a huge way, which helps you just study more efficiently. Now, the second point is going to be a little controversial, but the first time that I used to study a particular chapter or a particular subject, I would just skim through it so that I would get a kind of a understanding of what the chapter is about and get an understanding of how things work in that chapter, and I would also mark the important points. Now, I went a little overboard with the marking, as you can see over here, but that's just what I found worked for me. When I had color on the page, it just stood out and I was able to study better. This might be a psychological thing, but basically just skimming through the entire portion in the start allowed me to get through a lot of portion in a shorter amount of time. Now, I know I was not exam ready after this first reading session or first skimming session, but I had a basic understanding about all the subjects, and also it takes time for your brain to form memories of new subjects or new matter. So there was no point of trying to drill every single point in the first time only, because your brain is not going to be able to remember all that information by just studying it once. Memories are formed with repetition. So that's why I used to just skim through the first time, and the second time is when I spent a lot of time trying to study and understand. And the second time was actually taking me less time to study and understand the topics, because I had already built a base of the foundation of what the overall chapter and the idea of the entire subject is, because I skimmed through everything. Although it might have not been the fastest method, I feel it helped me form stronger memory pattern. Now, the next point, more than being controversial, is going to sound really cringy, but when I used to prepare for my exams, my mindset was not of I need to study for my exams so that I can get the highest marks or anything like that. My only mindset was, how can I use this information to help me become a better physio? So in physiotherapy, majority of it is about your body. So when I used to study by looking in the mirror and trying to understand it on my own body. Or if things I couldn't do on myself, then I used to create fake patients and fake case scenarios in my head and see how can I implement this, what I just learned. Now, I know this sounds very cringy, but that's the only mindset I had when I used to prepare for my exams, because I knew that getting better marks in my exams is not going to necessarily mean I am a better physio, but instead my practical knowledge and being able to remember it and use that information that I studied to help make a patient better was my only goal. And that's one of the reasons why, even though I used to do decent in theory exams, I would never be in the top, but when I used to do my practical exams, I would majority of the times perform really well, and in some cases I would even top the practical exam. And I think this is an amazing way to approach any kind of learning, and I'm not just saying this because I do it, but just when you're studying or you're learning something, try to understand how will this make you a better professional or help you in whatever you're trying to achieve. Like at the end of the day, the numbers on the mark sheet are going to be irrelevant to how you perform in real life, and that's just the way I understood the world works, and so that's the way I used to approach my exams. Now let's get into the non-study tips. So the first thing I used to do is I used to watch TV shows during my exam preparations. Now I know that must be just blowing your mind, but what I used to watch is episodes of small like soap shows like Friends, Big Bang Theory, Modern Family, something that I've already finished and I know the story throughout, and something that is light-hearted, and this would just make me laugh, it would distract me, it would release endorphins, it would just make me feel good and just forget about all the stresses and everything that is going on around me. It would help me escape from that situation, even if it was just for 25 minutes. It made a huge difference, and it's something that I've always done during my exam days. Now the second tip might sound crazy, but during my exam days, I used to exercise every single day. Now I'm not talking about a 45 or a 1 minute exercise session, but just a 10 to 15 minute session. Now you might be thinking, what's wrong with you? You're wasting your energy exercising when you could be using that energy to study. But that is the exact reason why I used to exercise, because when you exercise, you're burning those extra calories, you're releasing endorphins, which makes you feel good and makes you feel more energetic. And also because you're exercising, you're letting your body function at a higher metabolism. So that means the food that you consume is getting broken down and released as energy faster than if you were not exercising. So this energy can be utilized by your brain to study better, and that's why I used to perform better if I exercised. If I didn't exercise, I would feel lethargic and I would feel lazy and not really feel like studying. And that is true for me till today. Like even if I have a jam-packed day, like the morning I'm consulting at one hospital and in the evening I'm consulting at another, and then I'm coming back, I'm recording YouTube videos, I will still find time to exercise. Even if it's 10 to 15 minutes, even if it's late night, I will make sure that I get that workout in, because it's so important for my mental and my physical health and for me to function at an optimal level. Now, the next point is something that I believe in strongly, and it's something that most students neglect, and that is sleep. I would get my 8 hours of sleep irrelevant, even if tomorrow I'm having a final exam, especially then I'm going to get my 8 hours of sleep. And let me tell you why. You see, the way our brain and our nervous system works and the way we are able to conduct information from one point to another is there is movement of chemicals through nerves. Now, this process is not going to be able to run efficiently throughout the day, and at some point the chemicals that are moving through these nerve pathways are going to get depleted, and the way we are able to replenish and restore those chemicals back into the system and back into those points which help create memory and conduct information is by sleep. It's only when you sleep and you rest and your nervous system goes to a much slower level that it does not have to conduct a lot of information is when we are able to recover. So if you're not getting proper sleep, you're not going to be able to replenish those chemicals and let your nervous system function optimally. So you're not going to end up making strong memory patterns. Have you ever noticed, like, studying one night before an exam, you pull an all-nighter and you do amazing for the exam, but say 1 or 2 weeks down the line, if I ask you a question from that exam paper, you're not going to be able to know the answer. Hey, in last week's paper, what did you write for nerve supply for the serratus anterior? Oh, that is so easy. I wrote I knew it. I wrote it correctly. And that's because you did not let your brain refresh and form good memory patterns. And that's why, even though it sounds cool and very hip to pull an all-nighter, I don't believe in all-nighters. I need to get my 8 hours of rest in order to be able to even answer the exam properly. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the last 2 points, and that is meditation and food. And we all know that we need a good diet in order to be able to provide energy for our body to function optimally. And meditation helps reducing stress, reducing distractions, helping your mind perform at a much better level. It's all widely documented and well known. And these are just 2 other practices that I implemented during my exam days. Now, before you go and implement these points, I want you to understand that this is what worked for me, and it may or may not work for you. Like, everybody is different, and you need to also understand that my goals were never to get the highest marks or to top, and that's why I never designed my study program around that. And these tips cannot be implemented last minute, like say 1 day, 1 week before the exam. I used to at least start implementing this at least 1 month before my exams, and that would also give me 1 month to get into that mindset of only focusing on exams and getting all other distractions out of my head. So these points did not help me become the best student or the top in my class, but I believe these points is what made me a decent physio today. And I hope you guys found this informative and try implementing it, but not in a very high stress just before your exam situation. Like, try seeing what works for you and what makes sense into your life. And I hope this video helps you become a better student and perform better in real life. Peace.